afternoon. My name's Mary Dees, and I am the founder of the Love of My Life to Death podcast and domestichomicide.com website, where we are going to provide an opportunity for those who have been affected by domestic homicide to come and speak their story to those that would like to hear. The goal of the podcast and the website is to provide awareness, to let people know that this can happen to anyone. This is something that is affecting our families, and it has affected mine personally. So I want to make sure that we are portraying and making sure that there's awareness to domestic homicide and domestic violence. Also to support those who have lived this horrible experience of domestic homicide, who have lost someone that was close to them, whether it's a parent, a sister, a sibling, something that is going to affect not only the person that it happened to, but their lives. And the third goal is change, to provide an opportunity to communicate and share ideas of ways that we can provide change to laws that may be outdated or not holding individuals that commit these homicides accountable for what they have done to our loved ones. So I have the honor of welcoming my first guest, a friend of mine through tragedy. We became friends because of our losses, and I consider her one of the closest people in my life currently and hopefully for the rest of my life. I want to
Yes.
welcome Eileen Rodriguez-Aquino, who has lost her daughter, Leslie, in 2022. The opportunity for her to share her story and her amazing daughter. I can't wait to hear. Thank you for being here.
Well, Mary, thank you so much for the invite and for having me as your first guest in this very important message that we are trying to relay to the community. And so, yes, I mean, I'm ready.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, First off, I would love to hear you share, who is Leslie? What made the room light up every time she walked in?
Well, let's see. Leslie, she she was an early Christmas present, even though she was 3 days late. But she was born on December 21st of 1994, and in the middle of a snowstorm at that. But you know, I guess she had to make her entry memorable for everyone. But Leslie grew up very, very happy, very respectful. She loved to eat. She was a foodie. She loved trying new things. And she was involved in everything from extracurricular activities, gymnastics, tennis, flag. She even did flag football at one time, track. She just, I mean, there's just so much that I could say about her that I really can't even begin to. I don't even know where to begin. Leslie was very loved, and she still is very loved and very missed. She was just one of those people that she didn't judge anyone. She accepted everyone for who they were. Um, she really, really loved helping people if she could. And she was just one of those that as cliche as it sounds, but she was one of those that when she walked into a room, like you just automatically smiled just because she was just so bright and um, so loving and humble. She was, very humble. And it's just sad that she was one of the good ones that were taken away at such a young age, at the age of 27. So,
Well, she does sound amazing, and every time I've spoken to you in regards to her, I feel like I get to know her just a little more. And unfortunately, I didn't get to meet her here, but I look forward to meeting her one day soon. And I know that we have a true faith that we will get to be together again. So
Yes.
that is wonderful. I know, your next joy in life is her son, and we're just going to call him R for to protect him. But tell me about R and how much Leslie loved being a mom.
Well, art was a surprise. She was not planning to have a child, but it happened. And when she broke the news to me, she was afraid. I mean, she was afraid because she just wasn't sure of how I was going to react. And um, I I think I was a little upset because I was just hoping for not the traditional way, but just, for her to have a little bit more stability in her life at that time. But it happened. And, when R was born, she embraced motherhood. I mean, immediately. He was 4 weeks early. He was a preemie. And, she fell in love with him in a way that's just like, I don't know, it's unbelievable. Like it's you can't even really describe it, right? I mean, as mothers, we know what that love feels like.
Absolutely.
But with her, I don't know, it was just something different. It was just like he wasn't he wasn't just her child, like he was everything to her. And she was an amazing mom. She really just sh- she wanted to take care of him. She wasn't into going out and hanging out with friends and staying out all night. Like that wasn't her thing. Her main focus was taking care of him, and that's exactly what she did. And she tried everything that she could to better herself so that she could provide a better life for him. But as in regards to R himself, he's amazing. He's a funny little kid. He's definitely has her silliness. He's constantly doing things that make me laugh, and he'll kind of like roll his eyes and do all these mannerisms that are a lot like her. His personality is a lot like her. And he's just a great kid. He really is a great kid. Even in the midst of all this tragedy that he's been through, um, he's been pretty resilient. He's persevering, for lack of a better term, and he's doing well. He will have to continue therapy, but for the most part, he's doing very well. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
grateful for that. hmm
Absolutely. And with Leslie, what kind of goals did she have? Where does she see her future?
So Leslie had Leslie had quite a few goals. I mean, at one point she wanted to be a medical examiner. She wanted to get into the forensics and things like that. And then at another point, she wanted to um, become a nurse. And so she was beginning to get in that path. So she was beginning to get her transcripts and fill out applications and um, and all of that to try to get into the local nursing program um, at our local school. And I think in the end, her her main thing, I think she really, really wanted to become a NICU nurse, simply because when R was born, um, that he was in the NICU for a couple of weeks,
Right.
and they just treated him so well, and she fell in love with it. And that was what her end goal was, to be somewhere working with babies in the medical field, but working with babies, whether it was that or being a midwife or um, some type of pediatric care. So
Right.
so that was definitely her goal. And like I said, she was working on getting there. She was working on she wanted to start school, and just getting involved. She started working her job was with a pediatrics medical equipment company, and they were ready and willing to help her on her path to becoming a nurse.
Right.
So
She definitely sounds like a great caregiver all the way around.
Yeah.
So, as far as with you or any confidence that she may have had with friends, was there any signs of possible abuse or concerns from a parent or friend that you can share?
I would say early on, we never, you keeping in mind that this was her high school sweetheart. I mean, they started dating, I believe it was either 2012 or 2013. Um, and he, in the beginning, he was great. I mean, he took care of her. He was, very attentive to her needs. And so, of course, everyone that knew him, we just thought of it as, this is a good guy. He's a really good guy. He really cares about her. He really loves her. And she had to have some surgery done, and he was there. I mean, he was there to take care of her and attend to her, and basically be at her beck and call during her recovery. And so we just figured, okay, this is who she wants to be with, and they seem to really love each other, and things like that. And so we really didn't put any um I would say that we didn't really see any red flags, right,
Right.
at that time. But then as time kept going on and on and on, especially when she got pregnant, that's when we started really seeing some changes in him. And I myself, I mean, I cuffed it up to like, oh, he loves you, so he's just, being jealous, or um, just be patient with him. I found myself defending him more than I was even defending her, and kind of taking his side a little bit more than her side. And but the more conversations I started having with her, and the more things that she was describing to me, and after the fact, after her passing, speaking to her friends and what they've told me, um, you know, 2020 hindsight, we realize now that there were a lot of red flags, and it was just um, she I think she was seeing them, and so she would tell me about it, and then it got to the point where she was like, I just can't do this anymore, and that's when she decided to leave. And as far as physical, I don't believe there was any physical domestic abuse, but I definitely know for a fact that he was verbally abusive and mentally abusive, financially. He controlled her as much as he could, and it just escalated when she left and took her independence back. And that's when it just really, really got bad. So,
Right. And what I would like to open the floor to you in regards to his name's Devin. Is that correct?
mhm,
Um,
yes.
Devin, um, and this happened. We just went through Mother's Day weekend, and happy Mother's Day to you. I know it's a difficult time because the incident that occurred happened the day after Mother's Day. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
So,
just give you the floor, and let us hear, how and what happened up to what you feel like you can share comfortably with the group.
so my husband and I, we were living in Chicago, and all of this was during COVID that we were living there. Sorry, just to clarify. And we have family members here that were getting sick, and things were happening, and we had decided, I think it was more me because I wanted to be closer to my family, but we talked about it and decided to make the move back to Orlando. And so April 15th of 2022, which was Good Friday, we arrived, and we were staying with my mom for a couple of weeks while we were in the process of closing on our house. on our house in Chicago, as well as the house that we purchased in Orlando. And it was just, it was such a happy moment because our goal was to come here. We wanted to retire, in due time. We wanted to be grandparents. We wanted to be closer to our families. And for me, I wanted to see my grandbaby, my grandson, grow up, and I wanted to, spoil him and be grandma. And so during those 2 weeks, there were a few things that were happening. She was having like these episodes of high blood pressure, where she was being sent home from work. We would have to take her to the doctor. She just, her blood pressure was through the roof. And, but she would never really speak in regards to what was causing it. She would just go by whatever the doctors were telling her. Oh, you're stressed out, or you have, I believe she had like an kidney infection or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but so she was just kind of copying it up to whatever the doctors were telling her. But looking back now, I believe that there may have been some threats, and that was just stressing her out, and she just didn't know how to verbalize it to us. I don't know if she was afraid of what my reaction would be, or my husband, or my mom. I'm not exactly sure, but it was just, like I said, it was just something, it was just strange. And at that time, we also discovered that he was home from the military, and that he was home for good, which was surprising because we were aware that he had just reenlisted for another term. And he was to be, I believe he was going to be stationed or going to be moved to Hawaii and be stationed there. So it was just kind of strange that all of a sudden, he just reenlisted a couple of months before, and now all of a sudden he's home, and he's home permanently. And so I had reached out to him. I asked him about it, and there was something in the text message that I knew that it wasn't right. One thing was because I had mentioned to him, hey, if you're out, why don't you try doing reserves and finishing out your term that way? And he was just like, oh, I can't do that. It was just the excuses that he was putting. They just didn't make sense. They didn't make sense to me. So again, like I said, we just kept on doing what we were doing. I mean, we were working, we had things to take care of, and I wasn't really, and no one was really focusing on, oh, there's an issue going on between them, because we didn't think that there was an issue going on between them. I did know that, yes, that he had made it very clear that he wanted to get back with her, that he wanted to resume a relationship, that he wanted to work things out. But she wasn't ready for that. She wanted to just co-parent. And, she had mentioned it to him several times, like, just get the help that you need, and then we can possibly talk about it in our future. But for right now, let's just focus on ourselves and focus on being parents to our son. But it just didn't seem to be enough. So fast forward to Mother's Day of 2022, so which is May 8th of 2022. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. That Friday before Mother's Day, she had called me and said that he wanted to have a conversation with her. And I had told her, I said, for whatever reason, I just had like this feeling. And I told her, I said, Leslie, make sure that you speak to him in a public place. Do not go to your house. Do not go to your apartment. Just make sure you're somewhere public. Just be careful. And it was kind of weird because I had sent her a text message that Friday evening, probably around 8:30 or something like that, thinking, okay, the conversation should be pretty much done or close to ending. And she didn't respond. And for some reason, I just got this little kind of worry. And I I didn't verbalize it. I didn't say anything, I didn't say anything to anyone, but you know, I had this feeling that it wasn't good, you know. And so I sent her a text maybe another 30 minutes, 45 minutes later, again, no response. And then finally, I believe around maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock that night, she sends me a text message. Hey mom, I'm on my way. I'm on my way to pick up the baby. And so I said, okay, you know, and I felt that sense of relief. And so she arrived at the house and we were talking about it. And I asked her, I said, you know, what was the conversation about? How did it go? And she just said, you know, mom, he just keeps talking in circles. He's got this thing. He's paranoid that the government is watching him, that the government is listening to his conversations. And, you know, it was almost like she said she felt like he was, almost like hallucinating a little bit. You know, the paranoia was kicking in. And, you know, she said that she just kept telling him, well, if that's how you feel, like, go get help, you know, maybe you're traumatized about something. And so,
Do
but
you think he felt threatened by you coming back to Orlando and being closer to Leslie and the baby?
yeah, I definitely, because I think that when we moved back, he realized that he had absolutely zero control over her anymore. So at one point, because she didn't have a vehicle and depended on his vehicle to get to places, he would use that to control her. When she didn't have a job, they were living together and she didn't have a job for a period of time, he controlled her with the finances because he was the breadwinner. And so when he came back home, when he came back here and she was here, um, I think he tried using the baby. He tried using R as a way to control her. So, for example, if she told him, hey, I'm going to go away this weekend with my girlfriends or something, you know, can you watch him? Can you take him that weekend? He would say yes. And then when the actual date would come for her to go, he would come up with something and say, no, I can't. You're going to have to, you know, you're going to have to cancel your trip or your weekend or whatever. And so he tried doing that when we were here. And at that point I told her, I said, no, he's going to stay with me. You go ahead. You already made your plans. And, you know, I mean, it was only fair.
Right.
And so when he heard that, when she told him, hey, my mom's going to stay with R so I could go, then all of a sudden he was just like, it's okay. It's okay. I can do it. I can do it. Just, you know. So that to me goes to show that he was trying to use the baby as a control mechanism, but because of the fact that we were here, that I was here, and he knew that whenever she needed me, whenever the baby needed me, needed us, my husband and I, that it was there was nothing that was going to you know, nothing was going to change that. Nothing was gonna how do I say, impede us from being
Right.
able to provide, right?
How was
And
Devin,
so
how was he as a father outside of, that control mechanism?
um you know, honestly, it was up and down. I mean, there were times when he was just amazing, and we were just like, oh, like in awe. We had in February of 2020, right before the pandemic happened, my husband and I went to visit them in Texas, and he was just very hands-on. He, you know, his the way he disciplined and the use of manners and stuff. I mean, he was just really good. But then there were times when it just seemed like he simply didn't care. Um, Things weren't important to him. Things that involved the baby just weren't important to him. For example, you know, Easter, like dyeing eggs, or Halloween, carving a pumpkin, things like that. Even Christmas, like it just wasn't important to him to stop whatever he was doing, or just be present, not only physically, but in mindfully, like being present. And then he was constantly questioning too if the baby was even his. I mean, that was his constant thing, even though that he had already done, I believe, like 2 paternity tests. And he was even talking about doing a 3rd one because he still could not believe that R was his. And I think my daughter just got to the point where she was just like, do whatever you want. I'm done.
Right.
I'm done with this. We continue to have this conversation over and over and over, and it just doesn't seem to be getting anywhere. So, um, so yeah, so like I said, I mean, he in regards to R, he was good. He disciplined and things like that. If he didn't need clothes, or if my daughter needed money for R, he did provide. But I feel like he did it also with that doubt in the back of his mind, like, is this child really mine?
Right.
And so that was part of the friction that they had going on, just because he had this constant, I'm going to do a blood work. I'm going to do a blood test. I'm going to do a blood test. I'm going to do a paternity test, constantly questioning a lot of things as if Leslie had some motives behind it,
Right.
which she didn't. But that was just,
To
that's
hurt
where
her.
his mind,
Right.
that's where his mind was starting to go. So yes, so like I said, I mean, we get here. That happened that Friday before. We had seen him a couple of days before that at my mom's house, and he just seemed very different. He did not seem the same person that that we knew. Not at all. And somehow we started talking about him leaving the military, and of course at that time I didn't know what I know now about him being discharged, and a few other things. But um jokingly, I said to him, oh, you're not AWOL, right? And he kind of like kind of laughed it off, but I knew right away that there was something more behind it. And so I asked my daughter about it, and she was like, Mom, it's not my story to tell. If you want to know, you need to ask Devin. And so I tried asking him, but he wasn't receptive. Like, he really, either he didn't want to talk about it, or he was ashamed, or he just didn't want me to know. I don't know, but he just wasn't receptive to it. And so I let it go. I mean, I was concerned, but I wasn't concerned, because at the same time I'm thinking, like, okay, well, I mean, we all go through our problems, right? We all go through our issues, but we deal with them. And so, or we learn to deal with them, or we try to find a way to deal with them. And so that was it. And then, like I said, we fast forward to Friday. They have the conversation. That Sunday is now May 8th, and it's Mother's Day. She comes over, she brings R with her, and we spend the whole day. My husband cooked for myself, my mom, and Leslie. And it was nice. It was just a nice day. We just relaxed. We didn't do anything. It was just kind of a chill out Sunday for us, right?
And this is your brand new home.
Well, we're still in my mom's home, because in
Okay.
my mom's house, because we were due to close on our home on May 10th, which is the day after the incident happened. So,
Okay.
and we did close, but it was just crazy. It was like, that was
Wow.
just a crazy time. We had, like I said, we had just closed on our house in Chicago. We were getting ready to close on our home here. We're waiting for our furniture and items to come out of storage. I mean, it was just jam packed. And Mary, the type of job of work that I'm in, and I was in the middle of a month end close, and that's pretty stressful in itself. And so, not to add everything else that was happening that week, that was going to be
Right.
happening that week. So excuse me. Sunday, she goes home, and just like every other day that we had been hanging out, or seeing that we would see each other, she would always text me when she got home, or Mom, I'm going to stop by CVS and I'll text you in a minute, things like that, just to kind of keep me in the loop as to where she was at, just to make sure that she was okay, especially because she was having her high blood pressure issues. I was a little bit more concerned. I didn't want her, even though it wasn't a long distance between her home, her apartment, and my mom's house, but I didn't want, I mean, things can happen, right? I mean, things could happen just leaving the driveway. And because of that, I wanted to make sure that she was getting home safely and that everything was okay. And so yeah, so that was pretty much Sunday. Monday, she takes the baby to school. And during the week, my mom and I started helping her because she would get off of work between 5 and 5:30, and of course the baby had to be picked up from school by after school care by 6 p.m. So just to help her out a little bit, we would pick him up and then bring him back. We would bring him back to my mom's house and get him bathed and fed and all of that, so that she wouldn't have to worry about it. It was just more, hey, come on over, have dinner, and she would just have to go home and put him to bed and not have to worry about anything else, in regards to him anyway.
Right.
So come Monday, like I said, it was a normal day, and she went to work, and probably around 3 or 4, she calls me and she says, in the afternoon, she calls me and says, Mom, would it be okay if Devin comes over to see R? And I said, well, I don't see why not. So she's like, could you ask grandma? Because of course we were in my mom's house. And she's
Right.
like, can you ask grandma if it's okay? And so I asked my mom. My mom is like, yeah, sure. Like we never said no to him. We never prohibited him from seeing the baby. We never prohibited him from coming over. Um, to me, I mean, he's my grandson's father. So at one I loved him like a son. So there was no reason for us not to invite him or welcome him into our home. And I mean, we had even talked about he was going to help us do some things in our new home, and so all these, yeah, like I said, like Monday, that she called me and I said yes, my mom said yes. And so she gets off of work, she shows up at the house, and a couple of hours go by, and I said to her, oh, is Devin coming over? Like, what happened? I thought he was going to come by. And she said to me, she says, Mom, he's in one of his moods. And I said, okay. I already knew what she meant. And it just, basically, don't bother him is what it was coming down to. And so, or he didn't want to be bothered. And so she says to me, she's like, yeah, he's in one of his moods. I'm not going to worry about it. She's like, I can't stress about this anymore. Like I have too much going on. And at that time she was, like I said, she was trying to get herself prepared for nursing school, or trying to get into nursing school. And so she was just focusing on herself, right? Focusing on herself and the baby. So probably around 7:45 or so, she says to me, Mom, I'm going to go home. I'm not feeling great. I need to just, I think I just need to go home and just relax and rest up and get ready for work tomorrow. So I said, okay. I said, the usual, text me when you get home. Love you, kisses, and hugs and all that good stuff. And then she leaves. And now I'm focused on getting my work done because I have a deadline that I have to meet. And I also am taking off the rest of the week to deal with the housing situation. And so around 8:30 or so, I think like a light bulb went off. Leslie hasn't sent me a text message. And so I turned to my husband and I said, did Leslie send you a text message that she got home? And he's like, no. And I said, that's weird. So at 8:37 on the dot, I sent her a text message asking her if she was home. Never got a reply. About 10, 15 minutes later, my mom comes out of her room, and my mom was praying. And my husband and I hear this almost like a cackling sound. So we're thinking, oh, she's laughing. She's watching something on TV and she's just laughing really loud. And but the cackling was the emotions that came out when she answered the phone and heard what she heard. She heard what was coming from the other line, or the other side. And so his mom actually called my mom and told her that he had murdered Leslie, that he had killed Leslie, and that he was going to kill himself. And she came out of the room. My mom's face is beet red. I turned to her and I'm like, what's going on? And I didn't hear what she was saying. She was saying it, but it wasn't registering. And I actually thought it was like one of my brothers or something, car accident, something like that. Like, I am not thinking, even though, like I said, going back on Friday, I kind of had a feeling like he would be capable of doing something like that, but I never thought that it would come to be. Like, I never thought that it would actually happen. And so my mom comes out of the room, she's screaming and she says, he killed her. And I said, what are you talking about? And, my husband, he's sitting on the couch. I'm sitting at the desk. We're like, what are you talking about? And she says, he killed Leslie. Devin, he killed Leslie. And so immediately we jump in the car. And my mom's Bluetooth connected to her phone and the line was still open. And so we could hear his mom talking to his sister. And I'm asking questions, what happened? And they're both just like, she's gone. Kind of like in a nonchalant, I don't know, voice. Like, there was no urgency behind what they were telling me. It was just, or telling us, I should say. It was just, like I said, it was just very, yeah, he called, he murdered her. He said that she's gone. And so then I'm like, well, how did he do this? Did he, how did this happen? How did it happen? And his sister's like, oh, he took the gun. And then I kind of got pissed off because she made it sound like it wasn't a big deal, and then she says, well, let me go check the gun case. But the way she said it, it was just like, I felt like, okay, you already know that he has a gun. You already know that it's empty. But if you're trying to give me a reassurance, this is not the way to do it, And she then came back on the line and she's like, yeah, the gun case is empty. And then I asked, I said, well, what about R? What about R? And all they could say was, well, he's crying, he was yelling in the background, he was screaming in the background. And I was like, you could hear? And they, yeah, he was screaming in the background. And, I said, wait a minute, did he see? Yeah, he saw everything. And I was like, I just couldn't, it wasn't registering. I was hearing it, but it just wasn't really registering in my brain exactly what was going on. And so we finally get to the scene and we hang up, and and in that I'm asking her, I'm like, well, are you gonna, are you coming? Are you coming? Are we gonna see you? What's going on? And she's just like, no, I can't drive. I'm too nervous. And I'm thinking to myself, like, your child just murdered someone and killed himself in front of your grandson. And you have no one that you can call. Like, you can't Uber, you can't Lyft, you can't call your neighbor, call your family members, call the police. I mean, somebody just get here. Like, that was, and I kept telling her that. And she was just like, I can't drive. I'm too nervous. And so I think that just kind of added to the anger that I was feeling already. And so we get there, everything was taped off, and we see the baby, and I'm trying to get to him, and the cops are saying, no, you can't, I mean, he's got evidence on him, and we need to preserve it, so we can't let you hold him. And then the fire department wound up taking him and I guess cleaning him up and taking his clothing. His clothing had blood, and so they wanted to take that as part of the evidence. And so we're just sitting there, and my family members, we start letting them know that something had happened. We had not received confirmation just yet that she was gone, but my husband had noticed it, because when they started putting up the crime scene tape, he said to me, if she were still alive, an ambulance would be here, and or one of them, an ambulance would be here. And there was no ambulance. It was just the cop cars and the fire department, the fire truck. So again, so we just sat there waiting. The police interviewed us. They asked me questions. They asked my mom. I believe they asked my husband, and just trying to get, I guess, a history on him, and if there was like anything going on between them that was of concern. So yeah, we waited, and then I got the confirmation because when I was sitting in the car, I could hear over the radio where one of the police officers said, we need to call homicide. We need to call the homicide detectives, call the homicide unit. And that's when I knew. That was, even though my husband had told me, but I think a little bit, a small part of me was kind of hoping that
Right.
that she wasn't gone. But then that was like my confirmation. And so, we continued to wait. And then the homicide detectives, they finally showed up. And I guess they did what they needed to do. And then they came out and spoke to us. And that's when it was I guess, the true confirmation that she was gone. And at that time, we didn't know. I didn't know if he had already committed suicide or what was going on, but that was the confirmation that he had committed suicide as well. And so, yeah, so they take the baby. We, sit there for as long as we could. Of course, the news, the media, they start coming over and trying to get a story off of what happened. And they didn't interview any of us, but it was crazy. It was just crazy. It was a crazy night. And we finally were able to get the baby around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We had to go pick him up at like a DFS or Department of Families.
Right.
Hmm. We had to go pick him
Was
up
the
in one of the,
baby, was the baby hurt at all?
No, thankfully he wasn't. I don't know. My belief is that he was blinded. My belief is that something came over him where he was blinded and he didn't hear him, he didn't see him or anything.
You're referring to
Because
Devin. You're referring to,
correct.
okay.
Yes, to Devin. Yes, because at the end, when we received the police reports, that's when we found out that there were 16 rounds in the whole house, and one of those rounds were when he killed himself, and then 12 were on Leslie, and then the others were kind of just stragglers. So the fact that none of these ricocheted, thankfully, and hit him, or that he didn't point it at him directly and get him, it was, to me, it's like a miracle in itself. So, but thankfully he wasn't hurt. Physically, he wasn't hurt. Like I said, he did have a lot of blood on himself, because later on we found out that when his mom fell in the kitchen, because that's where it happened. When she fell on the floor, he ran to her and kind of like threw himself on her, and was asking her to, to get up, and what was wrong with her. And so, and he's only 5. He was 5 at the time, so he wasn't really understanding what was going on. He just knew that mommy was hurt. That's how he saw it. So, So like I said, we wind up picking him up, and then, you know, and then after that, the next day, we closed on our house, which was crazy. It was just crazy. It was just crazy all around. Wednesday, that's when we started making all the arrangements, and we're in the middle of that. Thankfully, we have these amazing friends, and they were here at the house waiting for deliveries to come in, waiting for our furniture to be delivered, or whatever we had in storage. You know, just kind of basically putting the home together as much as they could, and you know, and then of course all my family, friends. I come from a very large family, so friends and family, they were all here giving us support, and you know, until and still today. I mean, I've gained some amazing bonus daughters that are very, very good friends, and bonus sons. And you know, they just the continual support that we keep getting from family, from friends, um, even from strangers. You know, I mean, if they'll ask about the bracelet, and so I don't go into details about it, but I just let them know that, you know, that she was a victim of domestic homicide, and which, you know, which that's what this whole purpose the purpose of all of this is to bring continuous awareness to this domestic violence, abuse, homicides that continue to happen on a daily basis.
Right.
And so, you know, that's my one of my goals, right? To turn this tragedy into something positive, and to tell her story, but to let also to bring the awareness that, hey, she did try to leave. um, you know, we can't ignore those flags. If we feel that something is not right, we need to voice it, because I think that's a little bit of the guilt that I carry, is that when they were having that conversation on that Friday, that I didn't voice to her, hey, something is not right. Something is, you know, we need to be extra vigilant, be extra vigilant of him, because something just doesn't feel right. And I didn't do that. Um, but that's our goal, right? That's one of my goals anyway, is to get out there
Right.
and help women and men, because men go through this as well. They're domestic violence victims as well. Um, but to go out there and talk about this, and let's not assume that if a woman or a man stays in this type of relationship, that it's because they like it, or because they want to be in that. No, it's just, we don't know the situation. They may be controlled financially, so they don't have the finances to leave. They may not have another home or shelter, or a family member that has an extra room in their house, or a friend that has that extra space for them to go to. So they have no choice but to stay where they're at. Um, you know, and like I said, it needs to be talked about. It really needs to be talked about. It's not just women and men. This is also teenage girls and boys that are going through this. You know, I think more so girls, but they fall in love with these boys, and then these boys abuse them, and they just don't know how to leave, or, you know, and it's and domestic violence is just is not physical only. Like, we also need to keep that in mind. It's
Right.
verbal, it's financial, it's emotional, it's mental, it's anything that uh any way that there can be control of another person, um manipulation, you know, all of that is domestic violence, is
Right.
domestic abuse. And that needs to be really spoken about, because I think all of us at one point or another, we have gone through it. We have gone through, even at a minimum, but we have gone through that. but we just brush it off because to us is, well, he didn't lay a finger on me or she didn't lay a finger on me. And we just think that it's just physical when it's
Right.
not.
Right.
And so yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Even the point of him questioning, if R was his son, that's a control thing. It was to get a reaction.
mhm,
And to call her possibly a name that, she was out there messing around or, not
mhm,
being faithful to him. And that's not the case. It was his own thoughts, his own issues, from what it
right,
sounds like. So
right.
I know, you've been very uh, active in the community with different organizations and ways of not only sharing the story about Leslie, but also supporting others that may have gone through similar
Mhm,
situations. And, we're the veterans. It's happened, our
right,
situations are 2 years old. And unfortunately, this happens every day where, we unfortunately have met many people that they're just starting at the beginning of their journey. Do you want to share anything in regards to some of the organizations or things that you're doing in order to make a difference?
well, I think first and foremost, I want to make sure that everyone is aware that there is a national domestic violence hotline that they can reach out to.
Okay.
And it's national. It's anything that if they call, it's anonymous, so it's not like their names are going to be plastered everywhere or known. um so that's first and foremost, is getting the help, not being afraid to speak about it, right? If again, I can't reiterate it enough, but if someone feels that they're in that situation, even if they get an inkling feeling that they need to tell someone, and tell someone that they trust, someone that is going to say, hey, okay, I believe you,
Right.
let's do something about it, versus um telling someone that's just going to say, oh, you're crazy, you're
Right.
just, it's not really happening, he's not hitting you or she's not hitting you, so you're fine.
Right.
And I think that we need to pay attention to that as well, right? If someone comes to us and tells us that we don't just take it with a grain of salt or try to sweep it under the rug, that we actually, even if at the end it amounts to nothing, but to make sure that we're listening to what they're saying, because if they're stating it, there's a pretty good chance that they're in it, that they're feeling it. And
Right.
so so that's really, I would say, like the most important thing in regards to programs and organizations. I am currently working on starting a foundation in her name, and in hopes that that foundation will then help um, anyone pretty much that's in domestic violence. I'm not sure exactly where the foundation is going to take me or take us, but I just, I want to do something in her name to help with this situation, or help women and men and children, because children can be part of domestic violence as well. Teenagers that are in this situation and need to get out. And so that's pretty much what I'm working on right now. Um I am part of BSH, or Bereaved Survivors of Homicide, and it's a good organization, and it's good for anyone that has lost anyone to homicide. Um but I and it's great and all, but I want to maybe create a support system or support organization for domestic violence specifically,
Right.
or domestic, anything related to domestic violence, abuse, and homicide, because I think it's happening way too much. And it's to the point where it's happening 2, 3 times, probably even more. But when I receive my news notifications, it's at least 2 or 3 a day. And
Right.
it's just,
Sad.
And it's not just here and another thing too is it's not just here in the United States, it's happening everywhere.
Yes.
It's becoming a worldly, almost like a worldly pandemic kind of. And so I think it's just we hear it more because we're here, but it's happening everywhere. And like I said, I think we really, really need to get out there and talk about this and make it a safe space for people to come and feel comfortable in voicing and speaking and knowing that there is a solution
Right.
to
And not
their
the
situation.
the stigma of
Correct.
reporting. Right. So, any laws that you find are needing to be reviewed, anything? I know that, you have some concerns with the potential of the military having some responsibility to Devin and his situation on mental health, it being Mental Health Month, and the fact that this happened during Mental Health Month. Do you have any comments that you would like to share in regards to the laws and protecting those that could possibly be, doing
Uh,
something?
yes. So one of the laws that I think that need to be reviewed and possibly reformed is the red flag law. Especially being that he was stationed in Texas. And when I read the red flag law, for Texas, for the state of Texas, I just thought immediately, like, why wasn't this law used when it came to him? Simply for the fact that he had mentioned when he was there, when he was still active duty, that he was having dreams of, of killing someone, of murdering or shooting someone. And he was, he started using, he was abusing drugs and substance abuse. So, which at the end, that's what got him discharged. But the red flags were there, that he was having mental issues, that he was having depression, he was having some sort of PTSD. And simply because of some questions that they would ask him, for example, do you feel like harming yourself? No. Well, do you feel like harming someone else? No. They would just, okay, he's fine, there's nothing wrong with him, type of thing. And I think that if they would have utilized that law, that my daughter may still, they may also be, my daughter and him might still be here. So that's one of the laws that I want to have looked into, as well as I think that someone that is discharged from the military due to a felony should no longer be able to possess a firearm. And it was his personal firearm, which he purchased while he was in active duty. So that, that would be one or two of them. And I think that I hold them a little responsible, because I feel that at the time of the discharge, they should have contacted his immediate family. I'm not sure if they contacted his mom or not, but I know for a fact that they did not contact Leslie, just to say, hey, we're discharging him, like kind of a warning type of thing. We've noticed this, and maybe look out for these signs or something. But they didn't. And to me, I feel like they kind of put her in a little bit of danger, because they released him knowing that he had these mental issues. It is my understanding that while he was AWOL, he tried checking himself into a mental facility, and they rejected him, because they turned him away, because when they looked up his name, it came up that he had a federal warrant out for his arrest. And so, and I understand that they have to do what they have to do, but at the same time, to give him credit, and in his defense, he did try, I should say. He not was trying, but he did try. And it just, no one helped
With a
him
private facility, not with
with a private
the
facility.
military facility.
Correct. It was with a private facility.
Right.
And, but, even in the military, they, it would have been great if maybe they would have put him on some type of medication. I mean, I really, I don't know. You know, I'm just going based
Right.
off of what I've read in his medical records, but to a certain extent, I do hold them responsible because I feel that they could have done a little bit more to protect society as a whole. Releasing this person, it was kind of like, well, we got what you know, we got what we were going to get out of you. Now we're done, you know,
Right.
and so kind of cleaned their hands of him. But so yeah, so that would be one. And you know, another one that I think about is the crime of passion, or because although he committed suicide, but from your experience and your story, you know, I think about that and I think, well, if he would have not killed himself, would he be doing minimum time? Because that would have been his defense. You know,
Right.
I went there, I snapped and I killed her and that was it. Like, so there's definitely a few that need to be reviewed, that need to be reformed and you know, or maybe even start all over,
Erased.
you
Right.
know, erased and
Right.
start all over, because some of them just do not make any sense. It's hard to understand how it could apply for one person, but it doesn't apply to another person, and it could be an identical situation. And um, so yeah, so that's one of the other goals that I'm striving for, right? Is to change these and make these better and protect uh, victims more,
Yeah.
because it sometimes seems like the perpetrator is the one that's getting more, has more rights than the victims themselves, and it's not fair. Um, you know, what he did not just affect him or his family. It affected a ton of people. It affected us. It affected my husband. It affected our grandson, our home. Um, you know, our marriage to a certain extent has been affected by this. Uh, family, my family members, just, we're all here. We are 2 years later, and we're still like, I can't believe this happened. We're still
Right.
in kind of in that shock. Um, her friends, I mean, her friends that call me and text me and they're like, I miss her so much. You know, I want to talk to her and I can't. There's so much I want to say and I just can't. I want to hug. I want this. I want that. I want to see her. So, you know, so it didn't just affect one or two people. It affected a whole clan, you know,
Yeah.
her tribe, basically. It was
Yeah.
her tribe. And so, you know, so yeah,
And it's the roller coaster we're unable to get off of
correct. Yes. Every day.
every day.
Yep. Every day.
Oh,
One day, 1 minute, we're good. And the next minute, yep,
spinning in
don't
circles.
want to be
Yep.
bothered. Yep. I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want, and it's just, yeah, it's
Right.
definitely a roller coaster. And it's day in, day out. It's not a month to month or a year to year. It's a daily struggle. So, yeah.
It is. Well, is there anything else you would like to share at this point?
Not that I can think of, but if I do, I'm pretty sure I'll reach out to you and we could do this again. So,
Absolutely. Well, and one, my condolences and love to you always. You have been a blessing in my life, and I greatly appreciate you and having that person that really understands and that we can walk this very scary journey down with each other. But we
yes.
know, you know, we pick up the phone and the other one's there. So
Yeah.
my condolences. I wish you the absolute best on starting the foundation. Always, if there's anything that either I can do personally or the podcast or website can help you with, we are here for you, support you, love your family. And, I will always keep you guys in my prayers. So I just want to say
Yes, and the
thank you.
same.
You are the first. And I hope to have others join soon to share their stories. Having a platform to just speak openly and honestly from their version, from their perspective, I think is needed. And so that's what I want to welcome, and hopefully that we're able to continue.
Yep, I
So
agree. And thank you so much for having me as your first guest. I feel so honored. And and the same to you. I mean, you know what it feels like, and it's not easy, right? It's
no,
not easy. It's someone that we love very, very dear and want nothing more than to have them here with us. And unfortunately, we can't because they were taken from us at the hands of someone else. So,
right.
um, but the same to you. I mean, you know how it is. We need each
Yeah.
other, and we gotta just keep building each other up and being
Yes.
supportive of one another. And I feel the same way about you. You've become a very, very, very close, good friend. And I mean, even through this tragedy, but there was a reason why we met.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Well,
and so
thank
thank
you.
you.
All
Thank
right.
you so
We'll
much.
talk soon.
All right. I'll talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye.